How's it going, guys? This is going to be a little bit of a different video. I'm going to be breaking down every single bottleneck between 5K a month and 80K a month that you are probably going to come across. Now, I want to preface a few things before I start breaking this down. Number one, this is based off my experience. You might not have all of the same problems at the same time, but regardless, the information is applicable eventually. Secondly, I've run both a done for you and a done with you agency, so I understand a little bit of both worlds. Regardless of which one you choose, this will help you out along your journey. Now we'll start down here at the 5K per month mark. And the only reason that I include 5K is because I assume that some of you guys are still trying to break past this 10K month mark, but almost 100% of the time, actually 100% of the time, your main bottleneck is going to be acquisition. You're struggling to catch this attention, build value and urgency, which means booking calls feels rare and it takes way more effort than it really should. It's common for these leads to no-show, like I said, because of these problems that we're facing up here. And when they do show, closing them becomes a headache, right? They're gonna ask for a bunch of testimonials, guarantees, discounts, or say they need to think about it. At this stage, you probably do not have a ton of testimonials, so this can be difficult showing proof, but I want to break down what the system actually looks like so that you guys understand where you might be going wrong, right? In the beginning, these are going to be your clients and you're probably going to be reaching out to them. We are going to be finding these people probably through cold outreach, reaching out to them, and we want to start a conversation. That is the entire goal with this outreach message. It is not to close them. It is just to start a conversation. This is called setting, right? We're setting appointments. This is the three things that we want to achieve in this conversation so that we can get them on a call. Number one, we want them to admit to a problem. You probably already understand what their problem is, right? If you're trying to pitch them a service, you already know you can get them more jobs, you could help them with their systems or whatever it is, but you need them to admit it. Otherwise, they're never gonna want to fix it. Next, you want to empathize with their situation. Show that you know about what they're going through, likely more than they do, whether you've actually been in this situation yourself or you've worked with clients or you just know. Sometimes you just know. Third, we want to offer value that's going to solve this problem. You can't say, hey, let's get on a call and I'll pitch you, right? What my service can do for you, but offer the value. Once we have this call booked, this is what the second part is going to look like. You cannot go straight from the call booked and forget about it. You have to follow up. We have to have these reminders in place. If you want to do text reminders, video reminders, or even give them a phone call yourself, all of these will be viable and good options. When it comes to the closing, there's two main parts that you need to pay attention to. First is going to be before the pitch. This is going to be setting the frame. In the beginning of the call, you want to set the frame, make them understand what you're going to talk about, how you're going to walk through it, build a little bit of rapport, crack a joke or two, but keep it relatively serious. Next, we're going to diagnose their problem. This is going to be a lot of question asking. You want them to admit their problems to you so that eventually you can, show your solution. But before we jump straight to showing the solution, we want to make them think about their future. We want them to think about where they want to be. What are their true goals? Because once they can feel that their goals are not being met, they're going to want to solve that, right? So everything in the before is just about understanding their position, understanding where they want to be, understanding their problems. But after the pitch, you're going to need to handle objections. Now, when it comes to closing, people may say pre-handle objections. In the beginning, just keep it as simple as possible. Don't overcomplicate it. You can get a client following this, structure. Handle the objections and you want to close them. So everything after is about the decision. If you can get this decision out of them, you're going to close the client. So make sure you have this down and you will break past 10K a month. Now, the next segment is going to be 10 to 20K a month. And the biggest problem that I see working with agencies and even running the agency myself is clarity. When I was stuck at this part, I just didn't know what to fucking do. There's so much stuff that you can be working on. There's so many tasks and you're being pulled in so many different directions that it's hard to know exactly what to work on, but also who your clients should be, right? Because 9 times out of 10, your offer means something different to every single prospect that you talk to, which means your calls are gonna feel inconsistent. Sometimes they're gonna go great. Sometimes you can't explain your own service without trying to ramble on. Scope creep is constant because nothing is written tightly enough to protect you. And if you aren't familiar with scope creep, that is when the work you're doing for a client gradually expands beyond what you originally agreed to without additional payment. This is because you're usually scared to lose the client and they'll ask you just to do something once, then they'll ask you to do it twice, then now it's just a part of your job. Sometimes these are things that you're not even qualified to do. I remember my first client asked me to build them a landing page, and I just said, sure. I had no clue how to build a landing page. It came out horrible. They never asked me to build a landing page again. This is probably what your clients look like. Everyone is a little bit different. Everyone needs a slightly different solution. And because of that, your deliverables feel the same way. It feels like you're providing something different for everyone. Maybe client number 1 needs this solution, but then they also ask you to do this. Client number 3, same thing happens, right? And we start to get overcrowded because now we're providing so many solutions to so many different people. You're doing the work of basically 9 different clients, even for these 5, right? So no wonder why you feel overwhelmed and it feels like there's just too much going on. You don't know what the fuck to do. We need to have one ICP solve one problem to get them one result. Now, 9 times out of 10, the one result is going to end up being, increase in revenue. But what is going to be the change? Is it going to be getting them more leads? Is it going to be getting them more booked calls? Is it going to be increasing whatever it is, right? When you can have one ICP, one problem, one result, it'll make it so much easier to do the acquisition, right? Because now we have clarity on who we're trying to target and what problems we're trying to fix specifically. On to 20 to 30. And 20 to 30 is one of my favorites because it's actually one of the easiest problems to solve, but the biggest roadblock is in the mental. This is going to be about pricing. You probably are undercharging a severe amount based on the results that you're getting your clients. You're busy, but the money isn't reflecting the amount of work that you're doing. You're probably doing $10,000 worth of work for only $2,000 a month. And you understand that, and that makes it frustrating. You start to feel stuck. You start to feel like there's a very hard ceiling that you can't break past, even though you're good at what you do. And you're scared to raise these prices because you don't feel like you have enough proof, right? You're worried these clients will leave when you try to charge more, or prospects are going to push back and you're going to fold on your sales calls and you're going to give discounts. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to go from what we're always told, right, to start at, say, $2K a month. And change our pricing. Changing my pricing was the best thing that I ever did in my business. And it actually shot me from this 10K a month mark all the way up to 35K, right? So I was actually breaking into this next section within 2 months because I focused on my clarity and I focused on my pricing. And some of these sections you can do simultaneously, which is going to be one of the fastest levers. Obviously, do not get overwhelmed and try to fix everything at once and remake your entire business just because of this video. But understand where your true bottlenecks are and what is relating to you the most and focus on that first. Once that's solved, move on to the next one. If you're at 20K a month and you realize all of your clients came from referrals and you don't understand acquisition, go back and fix that because that's a fundamental skill that you'll need in order to scale. The difference between someone who charges 2K a month and someone who charges 6K, it's just a pair of balls, dude. I'm not gonna lie. It can be, that simple as understanding what you're worth, getting rid of the self-doubt and focusing more on your proof and having conviction in your product. If you've been running with one ICP, one deliverable to get one result over and over and over, and you've done this multiple times, it's a repeatable process that you're knowledgeable on and you understand, and you're only charging, a third of what you should, a half of what you should, increase those prices immediately and be willing to walk away from people who cannot afford you. That's one of the most difficult things because it feels like we're losing, but in reality, we're not. The more you can say no to a bad client is the more that you can say yes to a good client, all right? Price is also a positioning signal. So pricing and positioning kind of go hand in hand. In order to charge more, you need to be premium in your positioning. When you can position yourself to be high ticket, to solve real problems, to elicit this growth in a business, then of course you can charge more. If your service feels almost like a necessity and that you're drawn to it, you can charge whatever you want. If I were to ask you, which pair of shoes do you think is going to be more comfortable? The shoes that cost, $15 or the shoes that cost $200? Which one's going to be more comfortable, right? Which one's going to be made out of better material? Which one is going to last longer? You're probably, without ever seeing the shoe, going to assume that this one is going to be better. So price is also a way to position yourself as more premium automatically. Being able to increase your pricing is a huge one. Next is 30 to 40K. And this is something that I have very, narrowly escaped. I'll say I'm bordering at the top of this 40K a month mark currently. But I'm also going to explain what I'm going to do to scale past this 40K a month. So systems and delegation, right? I just hired some of my first genuine team members recently, but before then, everything is running through you, which means you're the bottleneck on everything, the delivery, the sales, the operations, and you probably haven't systemized enough. And once you systemize, then you can start to delegate. I wouldn't jump right into delegation. At the same time, you've probably tried handing things off, but the quality drops the second you step back. Training feels way harder than just doing it yourself. And even when you do hire, you pick the wrong person because you hired to make it affordable, but not to have the capability to do a good job. Once you're at this stage, you're past the point of hiring a $4 an hour VA, right? You're going to need to hire A players, which probably means vetting, which probably means sitting down, going through a list, having interviews, making sure they're qualified, and having training periods, right? You're going to have to put time into not only finding people who are hungry enough to see success and grow with you as a team, but also to learn, right? These people are going to have to learn. You don't just walk outside and find an A player. You're going to have to build them up slightly. That's just something you have to be mentally prepared for because it is a process. But there are two things that I want you to focus on. Number one, find the tasks that take a long time and find out how you can, I don't want to say compress, but compress the time it takes to complete these. We want to keep the same output, right? So say this makes our clients smile. We want this to also make our clients smile, even if it takes, marginally less time. For example, you can create templates for client reporting. If that's something that takes you a lot of time going through every single client list, make templates for client reporting, and it'll take you way less time. And if you wanted to hire somebody to also take care of that, now this drops down to zero. And that's a job you can pay a $4 an hour VA. Second is going to be writing down all the tasks that you actually do on a piece of paper and how much time it takes you. Now, what I want you to do once you have this list is go through and write genuinely what tasks can be done by somebody else and what tasks can only be done by you. For example, creating this video could only be done by me. It needs my face, it needs my brand, it needs my thoughts, and it needs my view on the market and how things work in order to have my brand behind it. No one else can curate, my perception of this business model. So that would be something only I can do. But is the editing something only I can do? No. Is the posting something only I can do? No. There's so many things that you can cut out. So make sure you understand what is dire for you to pay attention to and what things you'll need to learn to let go of. Once you have this list completed, you need to document how you do it, because chances are, I'll be honest, you're not going to find someone who's better at it than you are, because you have experience. You just have so much context that a new hire is not going to have ever, even if they're an expert. So document the way that you do it so that your brain can basically run in these other, hires' hands. So instead of completely removing yourself and dropping your productivity to 60%, we want our team to be operating, at 80 to maybe even if you can get it to 100% capacity that we were, because that's when you're going to be able to scale without those things breaking. Hiring is going to fix nothing if there's nothing to hand off, and you're still doing all the work and they're doing a shit job even when you do hand it off. 40 to 80K. I'm gonna, obviously I'm not at this point yet. My most that I've ever made in, a short period was 20K in a week, which technically is on pace for 80K. Did I hit 80K? No, I didn't. But most I've done in a month was around 40. So 40, once you've hit 40K, you have a model that just works, right? It's proven to the market, you're making good money. And at this point, it's really just about visibility. You can raise your prices more. You could try and fix a bigger problem. But at the end of the day, it's just putting more into what is working. At this point, also small tweaks are important. If you can up your close rate 5%, you'll probably make an extra, $10,000 a month. But in order to really pull that lever, it's going to be putting more distribution into your funnel. You've already niched down. You already have your tasks written down. You already have them delegated and broken up in SOPs, and your sales process is good. The way that this is done is through ads, typically broadening your content to reach either a larger segment of the market or just, adding new people in a parallel market that you can still fulfill for. Third is going to be, bigger content output, putting more focus, maybe getting, you don't have to go all the way, but creative director and, people to handle these things specifically so you can focus more on being in front of the camera versus having to script everything, ideate everything, edit everything, post everything. So like I said, the model works, it's just plateaued, which means you're not getting worse, you're just not reaching enough new people. If you're relying on organic content, which is kind of how my business has worked, it's converting well, but the audience is just capping because of the reach of organic content, which is why we have to, like I said down here, improve content output and maybe go a little bit broader. You understand ads or a bigger content push would work, but it feels risky to spend money on something that is unproven in your business so far. And you'll see competitors with worse offers who maybe are growing faster simply because more people are seeing them. This is what we have control of right now. This is our piece of the pie. We need to push it. We eventually want to start to fill in the rest of this pie. You can think of it as the market. You can think of it as, your capabilities, but your potential. Maybe that's the word I was looking for. Secondly, and this is just a side note, you have fixed so many bottlenecks by this point. You understand how to approach them. You understand how to fix them as they're going to arise. You might have to expand the team, like I said, talking about these creative directors, right? So you'll have, the people who manage the sales team. So you're not having to manage everyone. You bring on, CSMs and things like that to help you with the client delivery. That all kind of comes with just fixing bottlenecks, but you already know how to do that. Next is going to be adding in back-end revenue. So this is something that you can do earlier on, but of course, front-end revenue is going to feed into your back-end revenue. So don't worry too much about back-end before you have solid front-end, but this is going to be things like events. You can add in new packages. For example, if you're doing a done with you, for a 10K offer, and you want to add a done for you option, 25K. Right? So this is something that may attract people who have already worked with you, be attractive to those people, or you can also take rev share of either existing clients or future clients for this consistent revenue if you're running the done with you model. But always having equity in these companies, brands, people, offers, whatever it is you're working with, is going to be a little bit more of a cushion, right? If your acquisition ever for some reason slows down. So this is everything that I have had to specifically fix and maybe have struggled with in my business, in the dozens of agencies that I've worked with business. I hope to give you guys an update in a couple of months when we pass that 80K per month mark. If you want to follow along and kind of see more of my journey, go on to my Instagram. I'll leave a link in the description. Just drop me a follow and you'll see every single step of the way. Would love for you guys to join me on that. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll talk to you all soon.